we want a kitchen like this.
Rhonda, we need a den
Like this.
Rhonda, we want a romantic venue
Like this.
Rhonda, we want a car
Like this.
The key to financial success for teens is BASS.
Budget. Ask.
Self. Save.
Tonight on Solutions of Success, we have a wonderful topic, one that teenagers everywhere are interested in and knowing and applying to their lives for their futures, financial management. Joining us tonight are 4 dynamic teenagers and the CFO of a local utility company, sharing her knowledge of solutions of success.
Rhonda is financing.
Rhonda is credit.
Rhonda is budget.
Rhonda is interest.
Hi, I'm Rhonda James, and I'm going to talk about financial success for teens today. I'm the CFO of a local utility company, and I'd like to share my knowledge with these guys here today.
A valuable question that every teen must answer for him or herself is, what is success? Let's see what these kids have to say.
Financial success is Benjamin's.
Financial success is a pool.
Financial success is a ranch with horses.
Financial success is an outdoor kitchen.
You just met Christian, Hunter, Madison, and Courtney, all from Ringgold High School, and they answered their version of what they thought success was. Joining me now is Rhonda James to teach us what success really is and how to achieve it. Rhonda, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad these young people are here today to find out a little bit more about budgeting and about finance and about credit and how to save some money for their future. What we want to talk about now, I want to ask them a question. What if your parents had saved $20 every week since you were born for 10 years? How much do you think they would have? If it's at 5% interest, which we know nowadays that may be a little high, but they would have about $13,000. That would probably pay for 1 year of school for you guys when you go to college. It's only going to pay for about half a car though. I'm not sure what kind of car you're looking at when you look at financial success, but the kind of car that I looked at was a local Volkswagen, the VW plant here in Chattanooga, and it would be about half of that car, and you can't go to school in half a car. So that's something that you need to think about moving into the future. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at some abbreviations, and it's a fish, a bass. I know you guys talked about going fishing before and what kind of fish you might catch, and one of them is a bass. And we're going to use that acronym. B is for budget, A is for ask questions. We're going to talk about credit. S is for self. Pay yourself first. And then the last S is save. You want to save money, because what we talked about just now, if your parents had saved that money, you would have had that tuition for a year and you would have had half of that car. So we'll move into looking at this budget. What do you guys think a budget should be? What do you think it should consist of?
I think a budget should be saving or budgeting, getting what you need first.
Right. When we look at the budget that we're going to look at today, we're going to look at, if you guys were out, we're going to think about teenagers. What are some ways teenagers can make some money? First thing you got to do is have money coming in. What are some ways you can make money?
Get a job.
You get a job. You can mow lawns. You can babysit. But you've got to have some kind of money coming in. Because if you don't have any money coming in, you can't have any money going out. And the number one rule in budgeting is spend less
Save more
than you make and save. What we've done today, we've got a budget that shows if you mowed that lawn, if you did some work around the house, and how much it's going to cost you for those expenses. You've got expenses which you don't think about. When you're mowing yards, you've got a lawnmower. You've got to buy gas for that lawnmower. But you, like I said, you want to pay yourself first. And that is part of what we're going to look at today, the amounts you're going to have. We've got food, which you guys love to go out and eat, I'm sure. Then we've got clothing. That's the #1 item for girls. And I know that's important to you. We've got listed our charity. Everyone should think about what they want to do most. There's a lot of great charities around the area. But then we've made, on our budget, we've made $150 what we're showing today. We've spent $130. And what we're going to do with that extra $20 is save. So the first thing we do, like I said, is we go through our budget, we see what we've got, we see what we've got coming in, and we see what we've got going out. And you always want to have that leftover money. What we've talked about, what other ways do you think that could be to earn some more money when you're in school? I know it's hard to get a job, and a lot of people do that when they work. When they work retail, something else you've got to think about is, are you going to have to pay taxes? And that's one thing that you want to think about when you go to work. If you make $50 this week and they take out taxes on you, you don't bring home $50. You bring home what they pay you, what the net is. The next thing we're going to talk about in our BAS is B. We've talked about our budget. Then we're talking about A, ask questions about credit. What do you guys think a credit score is?
Like a number?
No, like what is a credit score to you?
It's like credit built up is like really good.
A credit score is, to me, the more I build it up, say, because you have to have good credit, say, to go buy a car or buy a house. Like, the better your credit is, the more chances you are of getting the car that you want and buying the house that you want.
Right. The first thing you want to do, though, is ask about credit. When you guys go to college, you're going to get these funny little letters, and it's going to say, congratulations, you've been pre-approved. But a lot of times, if you read through those letters, it's got a very high interest rate. Normally, an interest rate is about 15%. On some of these letters, you're going to say 25%. So every dollar that you borrow, you're going to have to pay 25 cents on that. If you borrow $100, you've got to pay back $125. And you certainly don't want to get stuck in that credit of having to pay that much back. A credit score, though, is a numerical system. When you go out and you buy that car, Madison, like you were talking about, they're going to look up your credit. They're going to look at all these credit. There's 3 major credit agencies. There's Experian, there's TransUnion, and there's Equifax. Those are the 3 main credit bureaus. And they're going to pull your credit. They're going to take your name, and they're going to take your information, your social security number, and they're going to pull your credit score. And when they do, whatever number you have is what you're going to get as far as your credit. If you go to buy that car, you may not get as nice of a car, like you guys were talking about financial success on cars and pools and houses. You may not be able to get that nice of a car. So you may have to back down and get a lesser car than you wanted because they're going to charge you so much. So that's why we're talking about today saving money, so you'll have that money. What we talked about, if your parents had saved money, you would have that $13,000. Instead of you having to go get so much on your credit, you would have that to pay down on a car, and that would help your credit score too. When everything you buy, it's going to put a credit score on you. If you borrow money, if you have credit cards, it's going to give you a credit score. So that's kind of a way to gauge what, like you said, Madison, what you could buy. You'll be able someday when you guys buy a house, you don't want to pay a high interest rate on your house because you're going to be paying on it forever. A question I want to ask you guys is, what do you think a house would cost around here?
$200,000.
Great. Perfect answer. $200,000. Now, what's a house going to cost you in Hawaii, though?
Double that.
Double that. it's probably going to be about $500,000. So when you're thinking about moving off, if you go to college, you finish college and decide you want to move off, you're going to want to buy a house somewhere else because that's part of your financial success. The American dream is buying a home. But when you do that, you've got to have that good credit score. Right now, a medium score for credit, 600-700. A great score, it goes to 850. You want to be in that range of that 750. That's in the green range. You know where you see numbers and letters that give you that red and that orange, that's bad. Then you move over to that green, and that's good, and that's where you want your credit to be. That way, when you get ready to buy something, you can buy anything you want to buy within reason. If you're working, making money, then that gives you that opportunity to do that, and that gives you the opportunity to be successful for that. So that's what we were talking about, asking questions. When we talk about paying ourselves, how's ways you can pay yourself?
Savings.
Savings, great answer. Savings. First thing you do, what we talked about a few minutes ago, pay yourself first. If you start you a small savings account, if you put the $20 that we talked about that we had left over on our budget, and you save that amount, $20 for 2 years, you're going to have over $2,000. That's a good down payment on a car. That's a good down payment on anything you might want to have. And you don't have to go borrow money because, like I said, if you go borrow money, you're going to pay back twice as much as you borrow. And you have to read that fine print because in those letters we talked about where it says, congratulations, you've been pre-approved. If you guys see that and you look down in there and it might say 0% interest for so long. Normally that's only for about 6 months. You guys don't want to do something like that because you're going to be paying that back. If you notice if any of you have a credit card, it's going to show you if you borrow $100, it may take you 2 or 3 years to pay back, or it may take you 20 years to pay back. You keep adding that interest and adding that interest every month. So it's really scary when you see something like that. Okay, talking about our $20 a month for 2 years, how much would you think you would have after 2 years if you saved $20 a month?
About $2,000.
Right, $2,080. That's quite a bit of money. To me, that's a lot of money. So that can buy a lot of clothes and a lot of food and a lot of gas. The last thing we talked about is let's go through our BAS again. We did B, we did budget. We did A, we did ask questions about credit. We did S, which is pay ourselves. And we did save. It's our last one. Saving that money. Now tell me what you guys think is the American dream.
Living in a big house.
Living in a big house. Well, when you save, there's a lot of things that you may want. What's some things that you girls would like to have, you ladies would like to have?
A nice car.
A nice car. Nice cell phone. What about iPads? Special clothes for you guys? You guys would love to have something like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Also, how much do you think on your Social Security? Let's talk a little bit about when you think about retiring. I know, let's jump ahead in the future. When you guys think about, after you hear your parents and your grandparents talk about retiring, there's something on your paycheck that you're going to pay, and it's called Social Security. Right now, there's only about 2 or 3 of you guys working to pay for Social Security for the currently. In 1950, there was 16 people that were working to pay that Social Security. So that's something that you may want to think about too. That may not be around, and that's something you want to think about when you're saving money. You want to be able to put back enough money for when you retire. And I know you guys aren't even thinking about retiring right now. But how much do you think when you retire at 65, if you live 30 years after you retire, how much do you think you would need to be comfortable? Just a big number. This is going to be a huge number.
60,000.
Going to be a huge number.
Okay.
For 30 years, an estimate is you're going to need $3.5 million.
Ooh.
$3.5 million.
God.
And that's why it's important you get your education, you get a good job, and that sounds like a lot of money. But if you follow the things that we laid out today, where you start saving when you're younger and you save over the years and that money compounds, that $3.5 million may not be as much to see, because you can see the end of that. If you start saving when you're young, don't wait till you're older, and you can reach that goal. You can reach that goal easily if you do that. Something we want to talk about today too is, you guys were talking about houses, how much it costs to get a house.
About $200,000.
Right, $200,000. Have you guys seen any of the new shows nowadays? They're talking about the tiny houses. Do you think you could live in a tiny house?
No.
Not enough space.
But if you think about this though, really, if you have a tiny house and you've saved that money over the years and you've put it back and you pay cash for that house, guess what? You're never going to have to make a house payment. You're always going to own your own home. And that's part of the American dream that your parents have talked about, your grandparents have talked about. Not just those big cars, but owning that home. And that's very important when you have a place to live, because nowadays you've got to think about utilities, you've got to think about going green, having solar, and the more you can do with going green and saving your money, that way you can sell your utilities back. So you save money that way. So there's a lot of upsides to going green. There's a lot of upsides to these smaller homes. But like I said, financial success to you guys is a big house, nice cars. So it's a lot of things you got to think about. But you got to have the money to buy it, and you got to have the credit to buy it. And that's what we've talked about today. You've got to have that extra motivation. Because if you want financial success and these things that you see, these beautiful things that you have, then you've got to work hard for it, and you've got to save that money. What do you guys think that, what will be your financial success in the future after hearing this? Courtney, what do you think yours will be?
Saving.
Saving money? I think that's most important, don't you? If you put just a little bit back. What are your plans for the future? What do you plan on doing?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I plan on working at TVA, being a computer engineer. That's what my stepdad does right now.
Law enforcement.
Hunter's going to be law enforcement. What are you going to be, Madison?
A psychologist, a forensic psychologist.
Psychologist. That's great. What are you going to be, Courtney?
A nurse.
That's great. And what's the first thing you do when you take your paycheck? What are you going to do?
Pay
Save
myself.
about $20.
Save about $20. Now, like I say, first thing you're going to do is remember BASS. B,
Budget.
budget. A,
Ask questions.
ask questions. S,
Pay yourself.
pay yourself. Last S,
Save.
save. Save, save, save. Even if you save a little bit, it's going to go a long way, because we talked about paying for tuition, buying cars. What you do now is what you're going to have for the future.
Wow, Rhonda, now I'm really scared. $3.5 million. I'm going to starve to death. So I guess we need to pay the bills. And now a message from sponsors who care about you and your family on Solutions of Success. Uh-oh, Dad's going to be mad.
If you find yourself in need of an attorney, call the law offices of Robert L. Stoltz. From auto crashes to forming a corporation, attorney Robert L. Stoltz can help you through some of life's ups and downs. Call him at 858-0023 or visit his offices at 376 Cloud Springs Road, Fort Oglethorpe.
The passing of a loved one can be the most stressful of times. It's then that you need your neighbors at Wilson Funeral Homes. Locally owned and operated since 1976, 3 generations of the Wilson family have ministered to the hearts of families in Northwest Georgia, creating a fitting celebration of life ceremony. Personalized service is always the hallmark at Wilson Funeral Homes. Don't wait until it's too late. Consider pre-planning today. Wilson Funeral Homes, large enough to serve you, small enough to appreciate you.
Are you looking for the very latest technology in home and commercial security? ERMC Security Solutions offers both. Home security, complete with mobile apps that help you control lights, cameras, door locks, thermostats, and garage doors. Even free tornado alerts. Never leave your garage door open when you receive a text message with a system from ERMC Security Solutions. Add smoke, carbon monoxide, or water leak detection at no additional monitoring charge. Don't trust your home or business to plain old telephone lines that could be cut. ERMC Security Solutions offers wireless monitoring. Do you own or manage a commercial business? ERMC Security Solutions offers the latest in camera systems, access control, and commercial fire alarms. Protect your investment with video analytics and crystal clear video from the latest 1080p cameras. Call 899-2753 for a free consultation or visit ermcsecuritysolutions.com. Feel safe with ERMC Security Solutions. TN license 1207 GA LVU 406148.
State Line Roofing and Home Improvement has been serving citizens in the tri-state area over a decade for both home and commercial construction, replacement, and repairs. Wayne Chapman has established an honorable reputation with credible references who will confirm the quality of his work. Give Wayne a call at 423-243-8590 for a free estimate consultation. State Line Roofing and Home Improvement encourages all students to invest their time in STEM programs through their local schools and colleges.
Bingo!
Make a date every Friday and Saturday evening to go to the American Legion Post 40 in Ringgold to
Play bingo.
We love bingo.
It's fun for kids of all ages.
Bingo is for veterans.
Great food, lots of fun, and money to be won.
Bingo!
Bring your family and friends to the American Legion Post 40 in Ringgold.
Rhonda, that was great information. I wish I'd had someone giving me that type of information when I was a teenager. Think where we could be today if we had known to be saving all these many years.
So do I, because we didn't have all this information when we were young, and it helps so much for the young people to know that they need to start saving now. It is very, very important just to save a little bit every week, every month, and you'll be surprised how it adds up to so much money.
Important information. So many kids these days, they're ending up with credit card debt at a very, very early age. And it's putting them in financial duress before they even get started. How does this happen?
Absolutely, that's what happens. They're getting these pre-approved. It says congratulations. And what they don't see is when they look at it is what those rates are. Those rates are outrageous. You can borrow $100 and you may be paying for that for the next 15 years. So they don't realize how much it gets you in trouble by getting those credit cards. Remember, save money, pay cash as much as you can, but if you need credit, make sure you check out all the details.
You know, back in the day, Rhonda, I used to say, what do you mean I don't have money? I still have checks. But now with debit cards and prepaid credit cards and credit cards themselves, how can a student keep up with his or her spending and know financially where they stand each month?
What they need to do is, like we talked about, is have a budget. We said the first thing you need to do when you start making money is sit down and see how much money that you're going to have coming in. Always spend less than what you bring in and save the rest. Pay yourself. Always pay yourself first. That's the first rule in budgeting.
I love that rule, and I like how I'm going to go back, and you've made me want to reassess my finances and check out, see where I am. Is there a special program? Is there a way to do this? Should I look at a spreadsheet?
What you need to do, there's so many things on the internet nowadays. You can look up anything about retirement planning, and it tells you how much you're going to need when you retire. I know that's going to be a long time from now, but we need to be thinking about that as we get older, because like we've talked about with the adults, young adults today, They have to have about $3 million in their lifetime to make it after their retirement. And that's dependent on if you live around 30 years. And that's about the average lifespan that we expect after we retire. Everyone's living longer, and you've got to have more money. You don't want to run out of money when you retire. So make sure, save, save, save.
That's true. You can't really count on Social Security any longer. Like you were saying, back when our grandparents were retiring, there were 16 Americans paying into the Social Security system per each retired individual. Right. And now there's how many?
There's like average 2.6 are all the people that are paying in, and that's based on recent studies. As we go along in the next years to come, it's going to even be lower. So every two people that are working now are paying for our Social Security when we retire. So it's a lot different than it was. So the $3.5 million is probably not out of range, because we know that we're going to have more money. Our young people have got to save that money, and they've got to have that extra money because they are living longer.
Wow. Well, you young people heard that. Keep working. Pay Social Security. Rhonda and I would like to retire one day.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that these guys keep on working many, many years and are very healthy and make a lot of money so we can retire quicker.
Sounds good to me. And remember, there are so many careers here in North Georgia. Take advantage of the wonderful things North Georgia has to offer for your career success. This is Paula Stinnett with Solutions of Success. Stay tuned for more great information. Uh-oh, Dad's gonna be mad.
If you find yourself in need of an attorney, call the law offices of Robert L. Stoltz. From auto crashes to forming a corporation, attorney Robert L. Stoltz can help you through some of life's ups and downs. Call him at 858-0023 or visit his offices at 376 Cloud Springs Road, Fort Oglethorpe.
State Line Roofing and Home Improvement has been serving citizens in the tri-state area over a decade for both home and commercial construction, replacement, and repairs. Wayne Chapman has established an honorable reputation with credible references who will confirm the quality of his work. Give Wayne a call at 423-243-8590 for a free estimate consultation. State Line Roofing and Home Improvement encourages all students to invest their time in STEM programs through their local schools and colleges.
The Walker County Sheriff's Office supports high school graduation. Be smart. Stay in school.
The passing of a loved one can be the most stressful of times. It's then that you need your neighbors at Wilson Funeral Homes. Locally owned and operated since 1976, 3 generations of the Wilson family have ministered to the hearts of families in Northwest Georgia, creating a fitting celebration of life ceremony. Personalized service is always the hallmark at Wilson Funeral Homes. Don't wait until it's too late. Consider pre-planning today. Wilson Funeral Homes, large enough to serve you, small enough to appreciate you.
Are you looking for the very latest technology in home and commercial security? ERMC Security Solutions offers both. Home security, complete with mobile apps that help you control lights, cameras, door locks, thermostats, and garage doors. Even free tornado alerts. Never leave your garage door open when you receive a text message with a system from ERMC Security Solutions. Add smoke, carbon monoxide, or water leak detection at no additional monitoring charge. Don't trust your home or business to plain old telephone lines that could be cut. ERMC Security Solutions offers wireless monitoring. Do you own or manage a commercial business? ERMC Security Solutions offers the latest in camera systems, access control, and commercial fire alarms. Protect your investment with video analytics and crystal clear video from the latest 1080p cameras. Call 899-2753 for a free consultation or visit ermcsecuritysolutions.com. Feel safe with ERMC Security Solutions. TN license 1207 GA LVU 406148.
After the debut of our 9/11 Remembrance Show, we received several requests asking to see that footage again as a tribute to all those who serve. Here is that footage with accompaniment by James Rodgers. God bless America. Welcome back to Solutions of Success. Joining me now, Al Schwartz from New York, one of the firemen who survived the horrible 9/11 terrorist attack on our country. I had the good fortune of meeting Al in New York this summer and interviewing him. I'm proud to have him here tonight with us via video phone, and I'm also proud to call him friend. Al?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us in North Georgia, sharing your story. Al, you had a very interesting story when we interviewed this summer. Tell us about that fateful day, September the 11th, 2001.
Okay, it started off, I was supposed to be working that day, and I was home on vacation, and I was planning to do a little field trip. I put a radio on, getting the morning news and the morning traffic reports when I heard a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. Like probably everybody else in the world thought it was a small Piper Cub. I put on the television, and I saw it was a commercial airliner. As I was watching the television, I saw the second plane hit the second tower, and I called the firehouse. I got my lieutenant on the phone, Danny O'Callahan, and to find out what was going on. He says the engine company in our house already responded down on the fourth alarm, and that they were still in quarters. And I reminded him that back in '93, that we were assigned first on the fifth alarm down at the World Trade Center. So as I was talking to him, the fifth alarm came in. He says, "We're going now." And I says, "Okay, I'll come in and I'll meet you down there. At least I can help you carry stuff up and down the stairs." And he says, "Great, I'll see you later." And that was the last I spoke to him. So I started to, go into the city, probably with every other off-duty New York City fireman. And as I was traveling into the city, I heard all the bridges and tunnels were closed, and the only way you can get into Manhattan is over a bridge or through a tunnel. So I diverted to one of the local train stations, and I was very fortunate that there was a train there. They were only letting firemen, policemen, doctors, nurses, emergency services people on the train. For the train, so we got on the train with proper identification, and they held us in the train station for what seemed like an eternity. But it was only a short while, and the reason why they were holding us there was because the railroad only goes through tunnels to either Manhattan or to Brooklyn. So they wanted to clear the tunnels to see if to make sure there weren't any bombs in any of the tunnels. I guess it was only maybe 5 or 10 minutes that we sat on the train. They let us go, and as we were going in, you could see both towers burning off in the distance. And we had no idea where we were going. Long Island Railroad goes to two places. One is Penn Station in Manhattan, which would have been good for me because I would have been able to walk up to the firehouse. And the other place is Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. As it was, the train wound up going into Brooklyn. We all got off the train. I don't know how many of us were on, how many firemen were on the train. We all got off the train, started walking up to the Brooklyn Bridge, and they had the staging area for the fire department over there. They had about 15 to 20 fire trucks there. We loaded up on the fire trucks, and we started to go across the Brooklyn Bridge. And it wasn't until we got on the bridge that we found out that both towers came down. So as we pulled into the area, I guess where the towers were, we got there just pretty much after that big dust cloud cleared. And what we saw, you just couldn't comprehend. And I tell people that are familiar with computers, you put too much information into a computer, it locks up. Well, I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. I thought I had my brain locked up, and I thought it was me, but it was everybody else. The whole 16-acre site where the World Trade Center was covered with steel. Fires were burning, and surrounding buildings were either damaged or on fire. A bunch of us, also there was like we got there after that big dust cloud cleared, and it was like a heavy, thick fog that we were going into. And what the dust cloud was pretty much everything in the building was pulverized. The dust cloud was cement dust, steel dust, glass dust, bone dust, asbestos. And like I said, pretty much everything in that building was pulverized. The 15 to 20 days that I spent down there, The only thing that I saw that was recognizable besides remains was a pedestal to an office chair. There were no desks or file cabinets or computers. There was nothing from the building was left. Paper, shoes, some remains, and that was it. Our whole command structure was shattered. There were no radio communications. Nobody knew where anybody was. Nobody knew who was in charge. Nobody knew who was missing. I mean, it was just a whole bunch of nothing other than chaos. I spent the whole afternoon down there looking for my company and also for the engine company. About 5 o'clock, I found one of my chiefs that came down in a spare car, and I hung out with him for a little bit, and then they were going back uptown. I hitched a ride with them back up to the firehouse. I left approximately 5 o'clock that afternoon, and when I left, building number 7 was totally involved in the fire, and I found out later on it collapsed shortly thereafter, about 5:30. Now, what happens in the New York City Fire Department, our normal work schedule is we work 2 days on, 2 days off, 2 nights on, 3 days off. What happened that day was because of the enormity of the situation, they had what they call a total recall, which meant everybody's day off was canceled, and everybody had to report to their firehouse. Unless you were dead or laying in an ICU someplace, you had to report to work. So I, besides my chief, the only two that went down to the site directly, I got up to my firehouse about 6 o'clock that night, and pretty much, like I said, everybody was there. I was totally covered with this pulverized material. I looked like the Michelin tire guy, and everybody wanted to know, what was going on because there was no communications coming back from the World Trade Center to our dispatchers, and nothing coming from our dispatchers out to the field. So I told them I had no information at all. I couldn't find either one of the companies, and it was just total chaos down there. And I described to them pretty much what it was. About 6 o'clock that night, the telephone started to ring, and what it was, I was a senior guy in the firehouse. Nobody wanted to answer the telephone because everybody knew what it was. It was the wives, the sons, the daughters, the girlfriends of the guys working that day. And like I said, nobody wanted to answer the phone because nobody had any information. And I was, like I said, the only one that was down there that would have any information, and I had nothing. So, I had to answer the phone and just give out no information at all. About 6:30 that night, my lieutenant's, it was probably one of the worst phone calls I got that day. It was my lieutenant's daughter the lieutenant that I spoke to earlier, and it was his daughter that I knew personally, and she says, "Al, please go find my daddy and bring him home." And from what I saw that afternoon, it didn't look too promising. About 8 o'clock, now we're on the telephone back and forth. We have a direct line to our dispatcher's office in Manhattan, and again, they weren't getting any information coming back from the site, and nothing was coming out to the field. About 8 o'clock that night, I was on the phone again, trying to find out information. When a police officer came into the firehouse, he grabbed me, he threw me up against the wall. He says, "Where's my brother?" And I said to him, I says, "Who are you?" And it just happened to be my lieutenant's brother, Jimmy, his brother Jimmy, who I never met before. I went upstairs, I told the chief what happened, and he says, "All right, get another senior guy, go back down." Jimmy had a police car. He drove us back down to the site. We spent the whole night down there again, and it was just as chaotic that night as it was that afternoon. We made our way back to the firehouse the next morning, and now they were holding us in the firehouse because whoever was in charge of headquarters figured that the companies that responded were now, they kind of assumed they were missing. They didn't want us down there. About 5 o'clock that afternoon, we almost had a mini revolt in the firehouse because people were coming in from out of town and out of state to do our work. And we wanted to go down there and look for our guys. So I went upstairs, I told the chief that, we're going to have a problem downstairs. He says, "What's the matter?" I told him, "We want to go down and look for our guys." So he says, "All right, see what you can do to get down there." And we went out. Probably the only New York City bus that was running that day was coming up 8th Avenue. We stopped the bus. We kicked the passengers off the bus. We told the bus driver, "You're taking us down to the World Trade Center. If you don't take us, we're throwing you off your bus, and we're taking the bus without you." So reluctantly, he drove us down to the World Trade Center, and he vanished to the winds. We spent the whole night down there again looking for both companies, and again, it was just as chaotic as it was earlier. Again, no communications. Nobody really knew who was in charge. It was just pretty much a free-for-all down there, with search and recovery, looking for guys. We made our way back to the firehouse the next morning again, all covered with this pulverized stuff. And whoever was in charge of headquarters now come down with that they're going to split our chart in half. I told you we worked 2 days on, 2 days off, 2 nights on, 3 days off. They split us in half, and there was an A-B shift. The shift that was working had to stay in the firehouse. The shift of guys that were off were allowed to either, be off, but most of us went down to the World Trade Center to look for our guys. And I don't know how long that 24 on, 24 off went, because what happened to me is I play in the bagpipe band, and after, I guess, the 10th day down there, 10th day, they took everybody from the bagpipe band out of the firehouse and assigned us to the band because, again, whoever was in charge of headquarters told families that if you don't hear from the fire department, start planning memorials for your loved ones. So in the beginning, we did get bodies back. We had a few funerals right in the beginning, and then we went to doing pretty much memorials, and then the few bodies we got back, we had funerals. And this went on for from pretty much till December. I stayed with the band till December, and I played it somewhere. Personally, I played it somewhere between 125 and 150 funerals and memorials. And on our memorial wall, the tent house, there are 343 names, but the bagpipe band played at 469 funerals and memorials. And the reason being that was because families that had memorials in the beginning and were fortunate enough to get bodies back had funerals. So they had a memorial, then they had a funeral. And like I said, I went back to the firehouse in December. I retired the following July 31st. And pretty much that was my 9/11 story. It continues to go on, though, with the pipe band, with funerals, and here and there. To date, I think the number is up to 109 firemen who've died from 9/11 related cancers. I just heard on the news again tonight from our fire commissioner that there's over 1,000 firemen with 9/11 cancers. So it all goes on, and I'm fortunate. I'm not as bad off as some of the guys are because I spent so few days down there. But pretty much that's it, and that's pretty much my 9/11 story.
Well, it's tragic, but I believe your emails with me, you talk about tragedy, but you also talk about the triumph from the 9/11 experience. And of course, we've all seen 9/11 when the towers were struck, the Pentagon, and the plane that landed in the field. You have sent several pictures to me, and Brian has those on the screen at this time. One of the photographs is you in a purple fire shirt, and a young man, looks like in a tuxedo, and a police officer next to him.
Okay, that was the restaurants took very good care of us, during 9/11 and stuff like that. The police officer, Paul Daly, who's since retired, and that was taken in John's Pizzeria on 44th Street. And you wanted a picture of me in my work clothes, so that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it. Other than the ones I sent you, I think I sent you a couple of pictures from the Trade Center itself when we were doing some work down there at night.
You did. The next photograph that we'll be showing is you, and you're standing next to one other gentleman. You both have on your fire attire, and it looks like there's broken windows behind you.
Okay, that was probably from the Deutsche Bank when we were doing pretty much. This was well into the operation. Now we were doing pretty much search and there was pretty much in recovery of whatever we could find. The fire department did what we call search and rescue in the beginning, and I just found out not too long ago that it went from a search and rescue to a search and recovery after about the 10th day. There were days that we were down there in the beginning where there were places where we could crawl into in voids and stuff like that, down below the building, and people have survived through collapses and everything else, but there was nobody to be found. And I guess, whoever was in charge at the time. They just went from a straight, rescue and recovery effort to just a recovery effort because they realized that nobody survived. I could mention that total people that were rescued in the rescue operation from the towers attack were 19. That was it. The last person that we pulled out alive was pulled out 26 hours after the original attack, and that was it. That was the best we could do.
Al, one of the photographs you sent us is a picture of truck 54 headed toward the towers. Looks like the first tower was struck, possibly the second tower.
Okay, they went down. They went down on the fourth alarm. I don't know if the second tower was hit at the time yet. Like I said, I called the firehouse. My lieutenant told me that the engine went down on the fourth alarm. Yeah, that was probably the last picture taken of the guys that were alive from 54 engine. Everybody in the company, everybody in my firehouse, all 15 guys were killed that day. And out of 54 engine, only 2 guys were recovered. 4 guys were never recovered from that company. But like I said, that was the last picture of probably the last picture that we know of. With the guys alive. It's just somebody standing on a West Side Highway that took the picture when the company was responding. That was it.
The next photograph we're displaying is the picture of, looks like a crane, and I believe you said this was ladder 4 being brought up?
Right, that was my company. My company was in the South Tower. Well, we know that for a fact because they got people out of the elevator in the lobby in the South Tower, and we know that, like I said, for a fact because they came up. They remembered the ladder 4 shield. Each company in New York City Fire Department has a number on their helmet, which represents their company. The people that they got out of the elevator remembered the ladder 4 on a helmet, and they came up to the firehouse. They looked at some of the pictures of the guys, and they identified the guys and said, yes, these are the guys that saved us. They met with some of the widows, and we assume the company went over to the next elevator to get people out, and that's when the towers came down. And when we got down to the lobby of the South Tower, 6 months later, we got all our guys back. And then a month later is the picture that you have when we got down to the bedrock, 7 grades below level, 75 feet down. That's when we got our fire truck back in the crane, picking it up.
It's total devastation.
Oh, yeah. Well, we lost, New York City Fire Department lost I think it was 93 pieces of apparatus that day. More than a lot of fire departments have as a whole. That's how many fire trucks we lost that day.
The last photograph we're showing is a handsome group of men gathered together. There are 7 of you there. 4 truck, the pride of Midtown.
Okay. That picture, there's 7 of us there. I think that was the picture from the 1993 bombing. I also responded to that. That was a group of us after we came out of the building that day. And in that picture, standing to the, I think I described it in one of the notes that I sent, was my captain that was killed in 9/11. He was down there with us in 93 too. But that was the group of us that responded down in 1993. So I had the experience of being there both times. The first time was pretty successful. We got everybody out of the building. It took us 8 hours that day to do it, but we got everybody out. And again, pretty much that was the reason why I was going in 2001, because from us running up and down the stairs, my legs felt like rubber for 2 weeks afterwards. So I figured if I can go in on my day off and carry stuff up and down the stairs, I can help the guys out. And like I said before, probably every other New York City fireman that was off that day, went in or went to their firehouse. And I know for a fact that there were better than 50 firemen that were off duty that responded down there that lost their lives. I don't have the exact number, but it's better than 50 guys that just jumped on fire trucks and just came in and wound up getting killed that day. Again, that's the picture from 1993.
When we were in New York, we talked about the irony of that particular day, and the potential was 50,000 people in those towers at that time. However, there were three things that actually caused people not to be at work on time or to have taken that day off. One was it was voting day for the mayoral primary.
Right, it's primary election day that day.
And the second was it was the first day of school.
Right.
And the third, a New York's Giants game the night before.
Right, playing Denver Broncos the night before, which started late, so a lot of people were late going to work or didn't go to work that day. So that saved the people. We very, it's a horrible thing to say. There was 2,749 people murdered that day, or killed in the buildings, and it could have very easily been in the neighborhood of 40 to 50,000 if the attacks came later in the day or if it was a different day. So I remember watching one of the documentaries on it where the mayor was looking for somewhere. He even made a comment. He says he thought he needed 50,000 body bags. He says, where am I going to get 50,000 body bags from? And like I said, that was a little bit of a godsend that it was that those three factors came into, happened, and could have been a lot worse than it was.
It could have been. Mayor Giuliani, I'm sure, was looking for that godsend, that bright light in the clouds. And those three events definitely brought some relief to a lot of families. I understand that Gwyneth Paltrow was actually in a car accident that morning near the towers.
I heard that story, yeah. I heard that story, and she saved somebody's life, I believe. Somebody stopped to help her out, and they were late for work, and because of that, they weren't in the buildings. But that's a story I heard before, so I'm sure it's true.
God's always there, even in the greatest of tragedies. On September the 11th, 2001, 19 militants associated with the extremist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airliners and carried out suicide attacks against targets in the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. A third plane hit the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C., and the 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Over 3,000 people were killed during the attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C., including more than 400 police officers and firefighters. It was a clear Tuesday morning. An American Airlines Boeing 767 loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper. Instantly, hundreds of people were killed, hundreds more trapped. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what people initially thought was an accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 United Airlines appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. That collision caused a massive explosion that showered debris over surrounding building and the streets below. America was then officially under attack. These attacks reportedly were financed by the Saudi fugitive Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda terrorist organization. They allegedly were acting in retaliation for America's support of Israel and its involvement in the Persian Gulf War and its continued military presence in the Middle East. Some of the terrorists had lived in the United States for more than a year and had taken flying lessons at the American commercial flight schools. Others had slipped into the country in the months before September 11. The 19 terrorists smuggled box cutters and knives through security at the airports and boarded the 4 flights bound for California. They chose those particular flights because the planes were loaded with fuel for the long transcontinental journey. Soon after takeoff, the terrorists commandeered the 4 planes and took the controls, transforming these jets into missiles. Less than 15 minutes after the terrorists struck the nerve center of the U.S. military, a catastrophic turn for the worst when the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. The structured steel of the skyscraper, built to withstand winds in excess of 200 miles per hour, and a large conventional fire could not withstand the tremendous heat generated by the burning of the jet fuel. At 10:30 a.m., the other Trade Center tower collapsed. Close to 3,000 people died in the World Trade Center and in its vicinity, including 343 firefighters and paramedics, 23 New York City police officers, and 37 Port Authority police officers who were struggling to complete an evacuation of the buildings. Only 6 people in the World Trade Center towers at the time of their collapse survived. Almost 10,000 others were treated for injuries, many severe. Meanwhile, a 4th California-bound plane, United Flight 93, was hijacked about 40 minutes after leaving Newark International Airport in New Jersey. The plane had been delayed in takeoff as passengers learned of the New York events via cell phone calls. One of the passengers, Thomas Burnett Jr., told his wife over the phone, "I know we're all going to die. There's 3 of us who are going to do something about it. I love you, honey." Another passenger, Todd Beamer, was heard saying, "Are you guys ready? Let's roll," over the open line as they realized their flight was in jeopardy as well. Sandy Bradshaw, a flight attendant, called her husband and explained what had happened. She said to him, her last words, "Everyone's running to first class. I've got to go. Bye." The passengers fought the 4 hijackers and are suspected to have attacked the cockpit. The plane flipped over, sped toward the ground, 500 miles per hour, crashing in a rural field in western Pennsylvania at 10:10 a.m. All 45 people aboard were killed. Its intended target is not known, but the theories include White House, the U.S. Capitol, Camp David presidential retreat in Maryland, or one of several nuclear power plants along the eastern seaboard. At 7 p.m. that evening, President George W. Bush, who had spent the day being shuttled around the country because of security concerns, returned to the White House. At 9 p.m., he delivered the televised address from the Oval Office declaring, "Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve." In reference to the eventual U.S. military response, he declared, "We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them." Terrorist acts have continued in our country, and those brave people still rise to keep our home the land of freedom because of the brave. God bless America. Long may it stand.